Hey everybody, you can sit down. If you want to stand up while I teach, that's great. Make me feel important. So, I've been thinking about Kung Fu, as I want to do. I grew up in the age of Kung Fu movies, with Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, loved these guys. And more recently, things, documentaries like The Matrix and Kung Fu Panda, they have made me so that I've had so much fun with these through my life because there's nothing cooler than kung fu. And I was going to try to do some kung fu moves, but I thought I would just embarrass myself, so I'm not going to do that. But you know what I'm talking about? Kung fu is just cool. But the thing about movies is that whenever they show you somebody training for kung fu, it's a montage. You know, they have a song, and it's something that would take years and years of your life to learn. But in a kung fu movie, it takes about 2 minutes or just the length of the song. So it's made me interested in how they actually teach kung fu, and I want to share it with you because it's really neat. So imagine you're, say, a 5-year-old kid. Maybe a 5-year-old kid in China, because in China, a normal thing for a long, long time, including now, is to learn martial arts as a kid. That you turn 5 and you and all of your friends know, very simply, that Kung Fu is the coolest thing in the world. So you're all signed up for it. You're all signed up for classes, and you get together and you learn from a teacher how to punch and how to kick. And your teachers are happy to send you, your parents are happy to send you to Kung Fu school. Not so much that you can learn to fight. What they really want their kids to learn more than anything else is things like discipline and setting goals and working hard and having compassion and just knowing how to be a poised, gracious person. Deep, deep down, that's what Kung Fu teaches these kids. And that's why it's a great thing. Back in ancient China, this was a very normal thing for people to do. Pretty much every kid went and did this and learned Kung Fu from age 5 to something like age 12. And when you turn 12, you graduated. And for most children, most people, this was the extent of their Kung Fu education. Kind of everybody in the neighborhood would have this level. Kind of like, I have known very few people who didn't go to elementary school. Right? That's how this works. Everybody goes and has that, and it teaches them some really good things, and they learn from it. But after you graduate at 12, you go home and you learn the family business, you start the rest of your life. But in any group of students, maybe 1 in 100 of them really shines out as having true talent. So maybe it would be a kid in your class, maybe a kid somewhere in your school. Your school might be big enough that maybe one of you would be talented, that they would stand out in this way. And what would happen then is that the teachers would come to you and say, you've got some talent, I'd like you to continue your education. I'd like you to come to our more advanced school. We'll call it high school, Kung Fu High School. And if you do that, you're going to be with a much smaller group of people, all of whom are the best of the best. And you learn with them one-on-one with the teacher. Actually, okay, not one-on-one, maybe 10-on-1, 20-on-1. You get a lot more personal time with your instructor. They show you how to do new things. They fill you with the things that they have. And the more you go through school in this way, the more you're like these master teachers who are teaching you. And for most people, when they graduate that, around age 19, 20, the vast majority of them, that's where they stop. When you graduate from Kung Fu High School, you have the credentials to actually teach Kung Fu yourself. So you might go be a teacher in an elementary school. Or you might even become a teacher at the high school if you're really good. And for most people, again, that's where they stop. Most of the best stop right there. So let's imagine that that's you. You're 19 years old. You've graduated high school, you've done pretty well, and you've started being a teacher at the high school. Very cool. You're very honored in your town. You're one of the most highly respected persons there. When you have students, they have to call you master as a way to acknowledge that you are their teacher, and that also that you are better than them and they're here to learn from you. That's what master means. But At night, even though you're really highly respected and you have a great job, you still have a dream. You have a dream of being a true master. A person where people call you master not because it's polite to call you master. They call you master because they can't call you anything else. They know that you really know this wonderful thing that they want. A true master, if you ever set up a school of his own, he or she, everybody for miles around would come to that school. And all the local schools would empty out. And those teachers wouldn't have any students to teach, and the master would have more students than he could handle. That wasn't any good. So a real master never set up a school. What he did was he would travel from school to school and put on demonstrations of his technique. And he would teach some classes to the students and even to the teachers of that school. And then he would move on to the next school. And he would just travel like a circuit of all the schools in a certain region, and he would just go to each of them periodically. And a master was not just a master of punching and kicking. Again, being a master is being a master of life. That a master is someone who could walk into a war and talk them out of it. They had mastered the art of being human, just that much. And you dreamed of the day that maybe one of these masters might come and tap you on the shoulder when he's visiting your town, and he says, "Hey, I've noticed you. I'd like you to come follow me and be my apprentice." Because if you want to learn something, going to school is not the best way to do it. The best way to learn something big and nuanced as Kung Fu is to live and breathe the same air as your master does. You're with him so much, you walk with him, you eat with him, and sometimes he steals your rice, apparently. And the more that you're with him, the more you become like him. Because you see, Kung Fu is about being a certain kind of person. That's what they want to train you for, a person who is wise and compassionate and skilled at life and relationships. And you more and more become that kind of person because he's chosen you, because you're with him. And the more you are in this one-on-one time instructing with him, the more you become just like him. That you absorb everything that he knows, even the kinds of things that he doesn't know how to teach. Even those things just rub off on you. And you start to become a master yourself. And at some point, maybe 12 years into your time of following a master, you're maybe 30 by now. Your master just might come to you one day and say, "Hey, Steve," or, insert your name, "Steve, I've taught you everything that I can teach you. You've got what I can give you. It's time for you to go and be a master yourself. It's time for you to go and make new apprentices for yourself and develop your own style of Kung Fu." And this is an actual photo of that happening. This is in China, and that is a master telling his 29-year-old student that he's graduating, that today you are a master. And I just love this picture, it's beautiful. That's how they've always done Kung Fu. And everything that I just told you is true. Except, I wasn't actually talking about Kung Fu. That's the only. Okay, I'm going to rephrase that. All of that is accurate about Kung Fu, as I understand their training system. But what I'm actually talking about is an educational system that is very similar to that. That is a very similar training system that works really the same way, is the Jewish educational system of the 20th century. Oh, sorry, not the 20th, we're in the 21st. In the first century, that is how they made students grow up and become good Jewish boys and girls, and how they trained rabbis. Because a rabbi means master. That's just the Hebrew word for the same thing that we're talking about in Kung Fu when we say master. A rabbi is someone who has mastered the practices of Judaism to a degree where they are just so good at living, at seeing the world in a very particular way, and at living in a very particular way, and being a certain kind of person that they can teach. And this is important for us to know. It's good. And here's why. Because there is a rabbi among us, and it's the reason that we're here today. There's a particular rabbi named Jesus with a particular style of kung fu. His kung fu is life itself. His kung fu is relationships with people and with God. His kung fu is humans growing up to be real humans. And if you're here today, it's because he has tapped you on the shoulder and said, follow me. You might not know that, but that's why you're here. People who have not been tapped on the shoulder by Master Jesus, they're not really interested in going to church. Some of you have been apprentices, students of Jesus for a long time. Some of you are here just thinking about it, and that's great. That's what church is supposed to be. But what I want to share with you today is this. There is someone, this Jesus person, he knows how to live. He knows how to live well. And he wants to teach you. And if you learn to become the kind of person that he is, what the Bible says is that it will heal you. It will make you whole. Instead of being broken up, you'll become whole. The word is heal. The word is also, it's translated for us as saved. That if you follow Jesus, you will find yourself, all of the pieces of you start getting put together. It pulls you together into one thing, one awesome thing. And that is a very exciting thing. And what I want to argue with you today is that practicing the way of Jesus, by becoming an apprentice to him, becoming one of his students, is something that will heal your soul, and that I urge you with everything that I've got to say yes to the invitation. And I want to tell you why. You have to think about, well, yes, I've been invited to become an apprentice of this person. Why should I care? Why would I say yes? And that matters, right? Like if some nasty, miserable person popped up to you and said, hey, I'm a master at life, follow me. You really don't want to follow that explanation. That person has a way of life, yes, and it has produced a bitter, miserable, annoying person, and you don't want to be that. So how do you pick the master that you want to follow? How do you choose a teacher? What we're doing here is the beginning of a sermon series that I'm going to call Practicing the Way. That's what Jesus called his way of life, the thing that he taught to people. That the idea is that you were made to rule, to be awesome. That's what we really looked at in the last series, the big picture story of the Bible, that God made you to be awesome, so that everywhere you went in the world, that place would be better because you were there. What we find in Jesus is that he was someone who was remarkably good at that. In general, that's what a rabbi is. That's what a master is. They're already good at the thing that you want to be good at. Why become an apprentice of Master Jesus? Because he's good at being the kind of person that you want to be. I don't know how well you know Jesus, how much you've read of the Gospels or watched in movies. But for me, I've had many teachers, but I always wanted like an ultimate teacher. Like I always dreamed of having a Yoda, like in Star Wars, like a master of life. And the more I looked, the more frustrated I became until I fell upon Jesus, this guy that I learned about my whole life as a kid. But as an adult, what I found in Jesus was a master at living, a master at being human. I'd like to give you some homework on this one. I don't usually give you homework on sermons, but we're going to do that today. I would like you to find a way to become more familiar with Jesus as a person. You can read the biographies of Christ, the Gospels and the Bible. That's one great way. If you're not into reading, I recommend watching The Chosen. I'm not a big fan of religious TV, but I love The Chosen. It tells the story of Jesus' life. It tells the stories of the Gospels. And it portrays Jesus and gives you the vibe of Jesus. that will make you ache to follow him. And that's the first thing you need. If you want to practice the way, you need to be enthusiastic about it. You need to see the kind of person that you could become and want it more than you could want anything else. Like those kids who had photos of the masters, the Kung Fu masters on their wall when they were growing up, and it made them want to go learn Kung Fu. Jesus is who you want to be, the kind of person that you want to be. He was a master of relationships. That, he even had good relationship with his parents, if you can imagine that. That his mom was a part of his life frequently, and people saw how he treated her and how she related to him, and it was beautiful. People are like, I'd like that relationship with my mom. I'd like that relationship with other people. He was even good at difficult relationships. I don't know how difficult his relationship with his parents was. But whenever he encountered someone who hated his guts, which was frequently, he knew how to deal with it. When I meet somebody who hates my guts, I get so stressed out. But you know what? I get less stressed out by them than I used to because I've been practicing this way, his way of relating to people. And whenever he finds an enemy, he learns, you know what? I'm going to bless that guy. I'm going to be kind to that person who wants me dead. And it's amazing what happens as a result, both in the stories of Jesus and in just the stories of me. I have found that following this way, practicing the way of Master Jesus, has made me closer to the kind of person that I want to be. Why become an apprentice of Master Jesus? Next, he has chosen you. In the stories of the Kung Fu masters, one of the most special things that could happen to anyone is a master, a real master, a traveling master, to notice you and say, hey, you, I want you to be a part of what I'm doing. I want you to do it with me. Come and live with me and be with me every day so that we can eat together and I can steal your rice and we can have a good time. I want you to be a part of what I'm doing. I don't know if you've read the Gospels, but in it there's a story about two brothers named Peter and Andrew. They're fishermen. They were guys who went to elementary school. That they learned Judaism at the school. They graduated when they were 12, and then they went home and learned how to fish. That was them. They weren't the best of the best. But the best master anyone had ever heard of walked up to them one day. It was Jesus, and he said, I want you to follow me. And someday, you are going to be fishers of men. And that wasn't like a cool analogy that Jesus thought up by himself, just being clever about how they were fishermen and they were going to fish for men. That was an idiom that, every Jewish person knew. Being a fisher of men, a fisher of people, meant being a master. That a person who would teach and have students, he would go and find the students that he wanted and he picked them. And he made them into something even more special than they already were. So I want you to know something about yourself. Jesus, the master of masters, the coolest guy anybody ever met, picked you out of a crowd and said, I want you to be a part of this thing that I'm doing. I want you to learn from me and grow in your own brand of awesomeness, even to the point where you're going to have students yourself. That's what it means to be called to become a fisher of people. And each one of us here has been called to that. You're special. Doesn't mean God loves you more than other people. It means that God wants to bless the world, and he wants you to be the one who helps him do it. You are exceedingly special. I don't know how to emphasize that more than I am, but it's huge that you're here, that you're listening to the sermon online, that you're doing any of those things. If Jesus is calling to you in your mind and you're thinking about it, there's something special going on, and you need to recognize it. Why become an apprentice of Jesus? Number 3, his way His way that he's calling you to practice, his way will fit in a way that nothing else ever has. I found it to be true in my life. I've followed many paths. When I was a little kid, I wanted to be like my dad. And I wore the same kind of clothes as he did, and I walked the way that he did. When I was a teenager, I wanted to be Kurt Cobain, because Nirvana was the coolest band that existed. And so, I learned how to be depressed and negative, and I wore a lot of flannel, and it was a very comfortable clothing period of my life. And I want to be cool like Kurt. And of course, then he offed himself, and that made me want to follow him a little bit less. Okay, maybe being depressed all the time on purpose isn't a great path for me. Maybe I need something else. And it was around then that I began to become acquainted with this different master, a different teacher named Jesus. And it felt right. It fit. That he seemed to be the kind of person that I really wanted to be. I didn't want to be depressed. I didn't want to only wear flannel. I didn't even want to be exactly like my dad. I mean, he had his problems. He was still cool, still is. But the one I wanted to be with Jesus. And the more I walked that path, the more it fit. Here's what Jesus says about it. This is in Matthew 11:28. Hey, everybody, are you tired? Worn out? Burned out on religion? I understand how that feels. Come to me. Get away with me. Come and be my apprentice. Get away with me and you will recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me. Work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. Love that sentence. And I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. There's a thing in Kung Fu where they teach you and they explain that they're teaching you how to move your body in ways that are very unnatural. One exercise that's fundamental to Kung Fu is squatting pretty deep down like this so that your thighs are level and holding that position for like an hour. I mean, it's hard to do for a couple seconds. But when you do that, you build up certain muscles that enable you to do Kung Fu. It's a very unnatural position. One of the tests that they have is that you hold that position and they put cups of tea on your thighs and on your shoulders and on your head. And if you do it right, those don't fall off. And that's incredibly hard to do. It's very unnatural. They say it'll form you into a new shape when you do that. Jesus actually says something kind of different. He's like, you know what? The stuff I'm going to show you, it may feel weird at first. Loving your enemy sounds a little nuts. But the more you do it, the more you'll realize that's what you were made for. It's not unnatural at all. It's the way you were created. That your body and your spirit fit. The more they follow in this way, the more they learn to do things like Jesus did. His way will fit you. Now here's an example. In one translation of this verse, there at the end, what Jesus says more literally is, my yoke is easy. Now, a yoke is a thing that rabbis used to say, and still do, that every rabbi has his own particular style, like his own particular way of reading the scriptures, his own particular way of seeing God and relating to God and of relating to people, and the practices and exercises that he does every day spiritually to form himself and others into that way. And he would call it his yoke. It's the thing that the rabbi master says that every day I pick up this yoke and I put it on me and I push as far as I can. I pull whatever that load is, I push it forward. And it's my yoke. And if you put this yoke on you and I train you how to carry it, you will become the kind of awesome that you were always meant to be. That's how that works. And some masters had very, very heavy yokes. very difficult, unnatural yokes. I don't know, maybe they put cups of tea on your thighs. I don't know. But Jesus said, this yoke that I have for you, that I am inviting you to pull with me. At the journey, we call it pushing for good. If you put this yoke on you, every day you do it, it'll feel more and more and more natural to you because it fits you. It fits how you were made. And it will make you into something awesome. So, like I said, today is the first step in a series that we're going to follow called Practicing the Way. We're going to learn about this yoke that Jesus teaches. He says, you know what? Do this, and you will be very excited about the results. You're going to like it. You're going to become the person that you want to be, the person you were meant to be. In this series, we're going to explore that yoke. We're going to explore, how Jesus manages his day. What he does when he wakes up, what he does when he lays down, how he structures his days, how he handles interruptions, how he handles people who pop up and just want to antagonize him and make his life worse. He's got a whole way of life that has shaped him into being that kind of person and can shape you as well. That's what this series is going to be about. And what I want you to walk away with today is simply this idea that following Jesus, actually practicing this way that he has, is the best thing that you could ever do because he's awesome. And you were made to be awesome, and he's here to teach you how to grow into that. That's what we're going to do in this series. So I want you to watch The Chosen. I really do. I would like you, by my next sermon about a month from now, watch the first 4 episodes. I think it's free on Amazon and a few other places as well. But just watch it and get to know this character named Jesus because he's so cool. He really is awesome, and he makes me want to be like him. And I think it'll have the same effect on you. And as we close, I want to give you some other ideas as well. A way to follow Jesus. There were 2 practices that he gave people. And they were large and symbolic, and they sort of give you a way of seeing everything else. One of them is baptism. You'll remember in the song that we sang just before I came up here, it's that, you know what? I need a miracle to put my past to death. I put to death, put my past to death. It's a weird sentence, right? The miracle of putting your past to death is embodied in this thing that we call baptism. And we're going to have a group of people getting baptized soon. I forget the actual date, but it's pretty soon, like next week or the week after. Give that some thought if you haven't ever done it before. It's a way of saying, I want my past to die. That my way of being hasn't worked out for me. That my way isn't working. I want that to go away. I want it to die. And you get put under the water. It's a symbol of death and burial. And then when you come up out of the water, it's a symbol of being born to a new and different life. A life that is better than the one that you had. If you like that idea, I want you to just think about that. If you haven't been baptized, it's a pretty good thing. I invite you to try it. It's a way of saying yes to this master who has come to you and has tapped you on the shoulder in this way, has invited you into something good. Another way is something that we do every week, and it's here in these tables at the front with bread and wine. It's something Jesus taught all of his apprentices to do as symbols. He said, take this bread, it's my body, it's me. Take this wine and drink it, it's my blood. Blood is a symbol of life. What the Eucharist means, what this bread and wine means, is that God, Jesus Christ, this master of masters, is giving himself to you. And you can have it for free. There's, really not any restrictions on this other than that you want it. So if you want that, I do invite you to come up and have some. If you haven't done it before, that's fine. Give it a try. See what it feels like. because God has something for you in Jesus. And if you want it, it's yours. Like, you may not be sure about, your religion and all of that stuff. That's a pretty normal thing. But if you like that idea, if you think maybe just maybe, this is the master I've been waiting for, this is the teacher that I've always needed, a first step can be to just take this symbol of the table. If you want what God has for you, come and get it. I want to pray. Master Jesus, your Kung Fu is the best I have ever seen. You don't punch and kick. Instead, you love your enemies. You seek to bless them. And that is one of the weirdest things I've ever heard in my life. But as I've learned to trust you and actually give it a try, it has made me better. And I love becoming this new version of myself that you're creating in me just by being with me. And God, as we move into the time of Eucharist, help us to see what it is that's going on here. Help us to know that you have a gift for us, a gift that is so good, a gift of yourself, your own body, your own life, that you want to be in us and moving through our veins in a way that transforms us. God, we thank you for that gift. We're really excited about having another bite of it today. Thank you for being our master and for being awesome and for making us awesome with you. In your name, Master Jesus, amen. The tables are open.